Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for stopping by. Wherever you are in this world, I appreciate you coming in to hang out. So today we got a lot to talk about. Got a couple high-profile cases on the docket here today to go through. So we got two courtrooms, 300 miles apart, 30 years apart too. If that's not, if the 300 miles is not far enough. And by complete coincidence, both of them came down to the same three words. Somebody bigger. Somebody bigger. That'd be two words. Anyway, in Las Vegas, jurors here heard Keffe D on tape talking about what Diddy allegedly wanted. In Los Angeles, Lil Durk's lawyer stood up and told the jury her client is a big fish and somebody traded up for him. Okay. Allegedly, that's the situation. So today is Monday, August 24th. Happy Monday, y'all. I'm J Cal. This is the regroup. Let's get it. Who's ready? All right, 30 seconds, y'all. The chat is the show, so let's get some like buttons. Let's hit what we can. You know what I mean? So and later there's a jury in LA where somebody's asking for subtitles to understand rap lyrics in a case where lyrics are the evidence. Can we believe that? Lyrics are evidence these days. Rappers. I don't think that's right. I'm gonna be honest with you. I digress, I know, but I'm gonna just put it out there. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. We don't do that to rap to directors, screenwriters, authors. We don't do that to any of them, but we do it to rappers. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. where we are. Week 1 is done. All right. 18 witnesses, former law enforcement, former gang members, and the former head of security for Death Row Records. But what happened today? Anybody know what happened? After morning recess, prosecutors played a second Death Row Chronicles interview about 40 minutes. About 40 minutes of it before lunch, recorded sometime in July of 2017. Witness Dorsey stayed on the stand listening to it. Now, Davis talked about his relationship with Sean P. Diddy Combs. That's the hot thing right now. You know, did Diddy order the hit? I don't know. But pressed on what Diddy allegedly wanted regarding Suge Knight. Davis says he guessed Diddy wanted the big guy taken care of. Davis says he didn't need Diddy financially, claims he already has significant money. Davis expressed anger that his nephew's name got publicly attached to the case, and he talked at great length about believing law enforcement was allegedly aligned against his side. My thing is this, you know, I know these gang members are anti-snitching. You know, they are the snitch police, right? For us squares, us normies in the world, you know, we could tell on everybody. We could tattletale all we want. But if you have, for argument's sake, allegedly, just for hypothetically, if somebody shoots into another car and no one knows who shot but the people in the car, how would anyone know who to shoot? I mean, say somebody knew who the 4 was in the car. How would anybody know who actually shot that gun if nobody was snitching? That makes sense. You got 4 people in the car. So Tupac. Somebody shot Tupac from a white Cadillac. How would anybody know? Because these guys don't snitch. These gang members, they are a steel trap. Once that information is locked in, these dudes are snitch proof. They're snitch resistant. How would somebody get the information out of them? Are they doing some type of CIA tactics to extract information? Are they waterboarding these dudes in Compton, in the hood, to find out who the shooter is? I don't think so. You know, these dudes talk about this snitch culture, and it seems like they can't wait to snitch. They can't wait to snitch. What I learned about this trial is all these dudes snitching and working with the law enforcement. That's what they do. But let them tell it. They always keep it solid. Anyway, there I go digressing again. Sorry about that. Bear with me. This is Monday. I'm trying to get right. I'll be right by the end of the week. At this rate. Anyway, court broke for lunch around 12:20, resumed sometime around 1:30. Okay. Damn it. Sorry about that. Okay. So apparently there's a documented interview sometime around 2027, a man talking to a camera for a show, and now it's evidence in a unaliving trial, right? So 1 week it was his 2008 proffer. This week is his TV appearance next to the book, and the prosecution isn't building the case out of forensic evidence. They're building this out of a career talker because he talked too damn much. My point. I bet you as soon as these dudes got to the state line, everybody in Compton knew who shot Tupac. If they were able to last that long. These dudes act like some, I ain't gonna say the word, but y'all know. I'll tell you the letter to start with. But it rhymed with snitches. It actually does, ironically. I guess that's the irony of it. They act like a bunch of snitches the way they gossip like this. So question. I got a question for y'all. Question. Should a documentary interview count as evidence? Yes or no? Anybody wants to jump in on that one? Yes, I say yes. A documentary interview should, because I say it should if you are not playing a role as a character. If you are yourself under your name and you're recounting a real situation, yes. You may not be under oath where somebody can now hold you to like perjury laws or anything like that. But you know, if you are talking to somebody and you are you and you're being recorded, that's the other thing. You know good and darn well you are being recorded. You are on a recorded conversation with someone else, and they're asking you about real topics, real incidents, real affairs going on, and you say X, Y, and Z, and that turns out to be something serious. Yeah, why not? Yeah, you got to come on up and explain that. That doesn't mean it's true. I know people lie all the time. I get that. But that doesn't get you out of having admitted to that either. If you said you did it, then hey, maybe you did, but that got to be sorted out that you were lying that time. So if you are a person that have problems with lying, then that got to come out in court. Like, hey, Your Honor, I can't help lying. I'm liable to lie right now just on accident. You ask me what I have for breakfast, that's probably gonna be a lie. And you know, you deal with the repercussions of that. But you know, if you all you do is lie, then that has to be kind of sorted out. But anyway, so now here's where I need you to actually listen, because we're gonna go into a quick little brief synopsis of what all happened today. Real quick, nothing too long.
Prosecution continued presenting their case against Keffe D, who is the only living person charged in connection to the killing. Proceedings today focused heavily on establishing a timeline and the gang rivalries that prompted it. So the day kicked off with an immediate clash between the defense and the prosecution regarding what evidence the jury should be allowed to consider. Defense attorney Michael Samft argued that an audio recording played on Friday exposed jurors to unrelated prior crimes. The judge sided with the defense by issuing strict limiting instructions to the jury, telling them to disregard those specific references before continuing with evidence. Witness Michael Dorsey returned to the stand. Prosecutors continued playing extensive audio recordings of Keffe D. The state introduced a new recording where Keffe D explicitly discussed his view of Tupac at the time of the shooting. On the tape, Keffe D states, "To me, he was an ignorant kid in the prime of his life doing stupid shit out here." During cross-examination, the defense reinforced their core narrative that Keffe D's historical media statements, interviews, and memoir were exaggerated or entirely fabricated to bolster his street credibility and profit financially, rather than acting as literal admission of guilt. Day 6 of the Tupac murder trial, and the prosecution continued presenting their case against Keffe D, who is the only living person charged in connection to the killing. Proceedings today focused heavily on establishing a
All right, so more of the same, not a whole lot, more of this back and forth kind of, um, throwing shots back and forth at each other. But, one thing that kind of came out toward the end of last week, and I guess we're trying to sort out how that's going to factor in to what is going on is the whole issue of is Diddy involved, or how Diddy gets involved, or how uh the relationship between Keffe D and Diddy. Apparently they had a tight relationship, and what's interesting is this is before checking in. Have y'all heard anybody talk about checking in? These gang members talk about check in with me when you get to my town type of thing. So this is before checking in, but apparently in the 90s, Bad Boy was checking in with the Southside Crips when they came to town, and that was their security. I wasn't aware of that. So it was more than just red team versus blue team in the streets. And then Suge Knight rode with the red team. Bad Boy was in LA riding with the blue team. That's the one revelation that kind of came out. I didn't know they were that tight. They were apparently really, really close. So, those who already knew that, I'm late to the party, I guess. So, apparently, he was supposed to, the big guy was supposed to be taken care of. The big guy, according to, who's the big guy? The big guy is supposed to be Suge Knight. And so supposedly there was a conversation between there's a documented conversation. I guess that's maybe on one of these interviews, but Keffe D said that he was somebody's supposed to take care of Suge Knight. They call him the big guy. He says not Tupac, but Suge. But I've heard some other stories where Diddy wanted both of them. He wanted Suge and Tupac. So according to Davis, now it was just Suge that they wanted. They didn't want Tupac. So I find it hard to believe, though, at this point. But the question Davis was being pressed on about Suge Knight, and Suge is a large man. That's the reference. So, well, what y'all think? What do you think that changes in this story? I don't think any of these details change anything. I don't think there has been one detail to change anything. All they can do is rope Diddy into this, but that's going to take more than just some conversations, some oral testimony. That's going to take, because I think a lot of people in the know already knew that there was some tension, and maybe he did want them unalived, but they said he was going to pay. Well, did he pay? Is there proof of payment? So yeah, maybe he didn't like him, and the feeling was mutual. But it's going to take more than just that to pull somebody like Diddy into this mess, and that's why I don't understand why the prosecution is harping on that so much, because it only just further confuses things. It just kind of just muddies the water a bit, because you could really leave that out at this point. You got enough just dealing with Keffe D at this point, which is pretty straightforward. You know, if you believe that he had any involvement, then you believe that he was in the car. And if you believe that he was in the car, then he's the only one that is left to tell the story. You know, so if he's going around telling the story that he himself knew back then that wasn't him, but he took money under the assumption that he was in that car, then you take this time to go with that. Like here's that time to go with that. You writing books because you're the one guy left over. You're the last man standing. Okay, well, last man, come get this last few years where you'll sit down in this box. So last week, the jury heard Davis on a 2008 tape claiming Combs offered $1 million for the hit on Tupac / Suge Knight. And hey, maybe he did. Maybe he did offer that, but you still got to prove that. You know, you just can't just say blase, yeah, he offered me $1 million 30 years ago, but I have no proof of that offer. And I don't have the $1 million either. I have no proof that offer was made. You're gonna have to really prove that, and that's gonna have to be solid proof to bring Diddy in, because his lawyers are likely gonna come out swinging, which they should. And so today they heard him 9 years later, framing the alleged target as Suge, not Tupac, which I find that hard to believe too, because Tupac made a lot of statements around that time before he passed. Hit him up. That was for Bad Boy as a record staff. What did he say? As a company or a record staff and a crew. And I mean, he was really specific, not just Bad Boy. What he made it. I think he covered everybody. Bad Boy. If you a janitor at Bad Boy, he was talking to you. It was like that. It was that inclusive. If you were a receptionist at Bad Boy, he was talking to you. Okay? You don't have to touch a microphone. You don't have to make a beat. You don't have to write a lyric. You don't have to help Puffy come up with his next dance step. He talking to you. If you the lunch lady at Bad Boy Records, he talking to you. I digress. Woosah. So anyway, this is a man who either a man whose memory got a little fuzzy over that 9 years, or a man whose story adjusted depending on the room. And I'll tell you which one the defense is going to argue. It's probably the same one that, well, not what I would say, but plainly, none of this establishes that Sean Combs did anything. Nothing here is a charge. Nothing here is a finding. It's a man on a documentary telling the story about what he guessed somebody wanted. I guess he wanted is not evidence of anything except what Keffe D guessed. So that's okay. But, you know, Keffe D has shown us in the evidence that has come out is that his memory, his testimony, his positions kind of change depending on the necessity at that moment. Like what is needed? What do y'all need to hear from me at this moment? Well, that's what I need to say. And he goes with that. Whatever needs to be said, he says that. Whatever needs to be promised, he'll promise that to get out of trouble. So, I mean, everything that he says now is kind of consistent with who he's been, and chances are who he'll be moving forward. But every time he talks, the story is a little different. Seems like, well, I won't say that, because it was pretty consistent before he got charged with anything. You know, the only thing that changed was the platforms he was saying it to, because he was saying it in a book, he was saying it in an interview, he was saying it to the police, he was saying it to whomever would listen, he would say it to, and it was pretty spot on each time. So they can't go back and see a lot of different interviews where he's all over the place with it, unless you compare it to what he says now compared to what he said then. So it may be some variation, but I doubt if it's that much during that time before he got charged. So which version does the jury use? That's the question. That's the $1,000,000 question. You know, and how do you convict or acquit somebody on like a moving target? Well, I would go with what he said when he had nothing to lose. That's probably the truth. What did he say when he had nothing to lose? What did he say when nobody was pressing him? Well, that's, I can't tell people, because even after the books was out, even after, he was still trying to get interviews and cash in on that when nobody's indicting him, nobody's charged him with anything. So week 2, is the state's case getting stronger or weaker? Anybody? Okay, let's go to Lil Durk. Downtown LA, federal courthouse, Judge Michael W. Fitzgerald. Opening statements were made today, and the government's case, Assistant U.S. Attorney Daniel Weiner told the jury Durk became consumed with revenge after King Von's 2020 untimely demise. He paid for the flight bringing OTF associates from Chicago to LA. The plan, at least in the prosecutor's words, was to track, stalk, and hunt and unalive Quando Rondo in August of 2022. So at some gas station near the Beverly Center, this was a ambush gone wrong because the wrong person got shot. Rondo survived. Little Pap was unalive. Prosecutors say at least 18 rounds were fired at the vehicle, and they missed. So the stakes are as such: 7 federal counts. All of them pled not guilty. Convictions on all counts means mandatory life in federal prison. Trial expected to run several weeks. He's been in custody since October 2024. Arrested near Miami International Airport. A co-defendant, Asa, OTF Boogie, Houston, will be tried separately later. So here's the take. The flights, that's the government's whole theory in one word. Not the gun in hand, not a call anybody like recorded, money moving, men getting on planes. And sorry. Not a call recorded, money moving, and men getting on planes. So the big fish, who's the big fish? Anybody know? So the defense attorney, Marissa Goldberg, stood up and gave the jury a completely different story. Her argument was that Kayvon Grant was initially identified by authorities as the one in charge of the shooting. And when agents came through Grant's door in October 2024, he realized his only way out of jail was to minimize his own role and give them somebody bigger. Is that possible? Her line to the jury that they were pressing Grant about a big fish, and they decided he had an insurance policy. I don't know. I hate to think that I hate to think that law enforcement would do that because I think that's pretty unethical. And I say unethical because to selectively go after the person you want to go after means that you have reason to believe that that's not even the person, but you want that person to be the person. And if you want that the person that you want to be the person, then you're okay with the evidence pointing to somebody else. But you are okay with, in essence, being dishonest and saying, well, we'll take you, even though we have reason to believe that it's not, but we'll take you. Basically, you'll do. Well, why is that okay? How is that okay? I really hope that's not the case. I'm sure there can be instances where that is the case, right? But I hope that's really not the case because I'd like to think that these people can use their discretion a little more appropriately and honestly, more importantly. So, Lindsay's attorney, no message providing he helped organize anything, no money trail showing he benefited Wilson's attorney. He was a passenger who got trapped. He came to Los Angeles thinking it was a money opportunity with the OTF label. So there you go. Who's lying? Somebody's lying. And here's the thing, tie it back. Stop and look at what happened today across the courtroom. Across the two courtrooms, I mean. Anyway, in Vegas, the defense said Keffe D talked himself into a case because he wanted to matter. He wanted to be important. In LA, defense says somebody else talked Durk into the case because he wanted out. Did he want out? Two different trials, same architect. Somebody in the room with the government deciding whose name buys them the most. Well, yeah, and that's the problem that I have. That is the problem that I have. If you are looking for the big name, or if you're looking to pump up your trials, your cases, so you can get some notoriety, so you can go write a book afterwards, you're not operating ethically, in my opinion. I don't think that's ethical behavior from our prosecutors, our legal department, our justice system to be more interested in somebody's status and instead of just being interested in who did wrong. Flat out. Who did wrong? Did you do wrong? Then you get it. You get the time. You get whatever negative sanction is to be got. That is for you. And that is not for somebody else because their name is bigger than yours. No, that is yours, sir, ma'am. Whoever you are, that is yours to enjoy. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just how federal cases get built. Everybody knows it. The question is whether it produces the truth or just produces a defendant. Big fish defense. Does it work? Yes or no? I would say no. I think that the jury can get confused by that. But at the end of the day, the jury has a job to look at the evidence, regardless of big fish, little fish, red fish, blue fish. Whatever it is, they are supposed to be looking at evidence. And that's the way this game is played. How much of it do you have? How much evidence do you have? I don't want to hear a nice explanation. I want to hear what evidence you have. And that's on either side. If the prosecution can't show the evidence that they have a case, they have a reason to believe that this person did this crime, then, hey, we don't need to go any further. They have the burden of providing evidence that this person committed a crime. So, big name, little name, Where's your evidence, ma'am, sir? Where's your evidence? Damn all that. Where's your evidence? If you can't give me your evidence, I can't give you my time. That's how it's supposed to be. And vice versa. Once they give their evidence, what they have, the defense is supposed to give their evidence to the contrary. Not all this these nice anecdotal stories about conspiracy and hypotheticals of what may or could have been this situation to deal. Well, you never know. Yada yada yada. Nah, nah, We're not doing that. We're not doing that. So, in my opinion, the big fish defense does not work. If they have evidence for you, then rebut that evidence, fight that evidence, tackle that evidence, show that that evidence is false. That is not true. That is a lie. These is a stack of lies they're trying to feed you, jury. They playing in your face. They are insulting your intelligence. That's how you do that. Not say, oh, I'm a big name. They just want me because I'm a big name. Nah, bro, did you do it? Yes or no? That's the response. No. Did you do it? Yes or no? Okay, no. Okay, what's your evidence to the contrary? If you were in a room facing life in prison and they told you a bigger name buys your freedom, what would you actually do? Well, if my goal is to get out of there, I'm already trying to figure out a way out. If that's my goal, big name or not. If they tell me that that's what they want, then I'll try to give them that. I mean, that's not that difficult. You know, if hey, look, hey bro, if you want to get out of here, you got anybody above you can give us? Yup, actually I do. Uh yeah, Earl, Earl and them? Yeah. They put me up to do this. Okay, yeah. Take him down. Okay, cool. So I mean, that's somebody giving you a way to lessen, to lessen that exposure or lessen that that sanction that is coming your way, that penalty that is coming your way, if that is the route you want to take for a life of crime. So yeah, that's the cost of doing business. But I ain't no snitch, so I can gesture though. I don't think gesturing and snitching, I could do that like that. Ain't money me. So a 16-person panel, 12 jurors, 4 alternates got seated after 2 days of questioning. And the questioning kept coming back to one concept: rap music. Hot damn. Prospective jurors were asked directly whether the genre carried negative associations for them and whether violent lyrics would affect their ability to be fair. One woman said rap music suggests violence to her. Another said the genre carries negative connotations in her mind. And another prospective juror asked for subtitles just to follow the lyrics. Damn. That mean they got old grandma in there judging. Woo-wee. Somebody going to jail. Somebody going to jail. Like, hey, I don't speak that. I don't speak YN. What he saying? What that mean? He said what? He said that on the record. Oh Lord, somebody going to jail, and I don't think that's fair. So let's talk about that. But first, hold on. Let's get a quick update on opening statements.
up on everything you need to know. So the government went out, they laid out their case, the motive, the beef between Quando and Lil Durk's camp, this concept that Durk is the leader, OTF is a gang, they're involved in killings. They laid out the text messages, the music videos, that the cooperator is going to explain exactly what Durk's role in all of this was. I thought the strongest thing the prosecution did is they laid out the timeline that predates this August 19, 2022 shooting at Quando Rondo, and that in fact there were prior shootings, and all of it kind of really lends to itself to building the story that these two camps hated each other and they were going after one another. As I'll discuss in a moment, the defense had a good response to that, which is drawing this division between OTF Vani and Durk Banks and putting all the prior attempts that the prosecution spent a lot of time planning in the jury's head on OTF Vani. I thought that the defense's opening was a lot stronger. They had the great quote, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you're trying to follow the money in this murder for hire trial, you will not be able to, because this is a murder for hire where nobody got paid." Durk Banks' lawyers, and it was Marissa Goldberg, not Drew Finling, who did the opening statement in this case, and I thought that made a lot of sense. Most of the jury is women, a lot of white women. Marissa Goldberg is a white woman who is cold as ice, stone cold serious, not the type of showman Drew Finling is. There's a time and a place for the showmanship, but when you open up in a case where the jury's going to see the autopsy videos of a young man with bullet holes riddled all over his body, you need a very, very serious tone. That's the exact tone Durk Banks' attorney struck. I thought she gave a tremendous opening. I thought most of her opening was built on directly rebutting everything that the prosecution had just showed. So this concept of cooperators, she pointed out, hey, look, these are admitted murderers who are going to get convicted and sent to life. And the only way they can get out is to use Durk Banks as an insurance policy, somebody to pin the blame on. She talked about the first cooperator, OTF Jam. A lot has been said. She labeled him a quote unquote massive cooperator who gave over 30 interviews to law enforcement in the very short time. He had spent 12 years in prison. He got out. He's only out for about a year. He's already talked and started trying to give up information 30 different times to police. Some of the times he knew nothing about Durk. Later, when charges and cooperation were on the table, he all of a sudden...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to disrupt that. But is it me, or does it seem like these gangsters, all these gangsters do is snitch? It seems like all they do is talk to the police. All they do is talk to the police. What's up, Sess? We got Sess in the building. All they do is talk to the police. I thought these dudes keep it solid. Okay, maybe it's just me. I'm sorry. I digress.
And had all the goods about Durk. There was also a lot of talk about OTF Vani. OTF Vani, one of the cooperators, Durk's lawyers pinned him as the real ringleader, that Durk's not a ringleader. They said, look, if you look at the evidence, you're going to see Durk tells people to do things. They're not doing what Durk says. They're stealing from Durk. They're talking shit about Durk. Durk is his own little world, doing celebrity entertainment things. He's got a lot of stuff going on. It was OTF Vani who not only this murder that he orchestrated, not only did he get the rental cars, the guns, the ski masks, arrange everybody to be there, pick them up, take them to the scene. This wasn't the first time he did all that. He has a modus operandi, and he has done this before in an attempt to get at Quando Rondo, including in Georgia, including other occasions. And so the case is really going to boil down, as it always was, the cooperators versus Durk. There's some evidence in there, but a lot of it is explainable. For example, there was that text message. Durk says, hey, don't book no flights under my name. His lawyers pointed out that when you look at the evidence, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that text clearly had nothing to do with this murder. And what Durk was talking about was a completely different event. And oh, by the way, the guy Vani did end up booking the flights using a credit card connected to OTF. So to the extent Durk, as the ringleader, is giving instructions to people, they're not following them. Ultimately, where is this case going? This case is wide open. The prosecution presented a narrative.
That means Rico. That means at some point, they got Rico coming their way. Why? That's what wide open mean.
The defense presented a narrative. The narratives do not matter. What matters is the evidence. I don't give a shit what you guys think you heard in music songs. I don't care what you think you saw on the internet. The jury is not going to hear any of that narrative. The jury is going to hear evidence from witnesses on the stand. I will say, I think the biggest problem you're facing if you're Durk Banks' defense team is trying to present a picture to the jury without them getting thrown off by the co-defendant's defense team, because there's actually 3 defendants in this case, not just one. And the 3 defendants, they tried to sever the charges and have only a single defendant. However, that didn't work out. And so now you have 3 defendants, and their stories kind of complicate things, and they don't make a lot of sense. For example, one of the guys, OTF Didi, he said, and both the co-defendants said, hey, we never agreed to a murder. We didn't even know there was going to be a murder. Okay, well, why are you there? Didi said he's there because he heard the OTF was going to be there, and he's found that it's a good idea to be around. You might be able, he had a music career. He was a budding, aspiring rap artist, and so he likes to be around and try to get some studio time, try to get into a music video. The other guy,
he gonna get some time, all right. Not studio though. I'm sorry.
His lawyer went up there and said, hey, he also didn't know anything. He didn't agree to anything. Why was he there? The other guy didn't explain why he was there. He just said, oh, well, he was there. He never kind of explained that. And so it's an interesting case because you have this celebrity superstar powerhouse legal team that's defending the case. And not only do they have to defend the case against the prosecution, but they have to deal with the co-defendants' cases, which all of them kind of are telling slightly different stories while they're all trying to throw a perfect pitch down the middle to proclaim their innocence. This trial will continue. In my next post, I will explain to you some more of the details that came out in the opening, as well as the first 4 government witnesses. Stay tuned. Lil Durk trial.
All right. Y'all seen that? Y'all heard that? Lil Durk coming home, y'all. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't be doing that. I don't know what's gonna happen with Lil Durk. I think all the evidence that they finding out, they're gonna end up getting hit with a RICO at some point. You can't have that. You can't have that. They buying tickets. They flying out of town to unalive people. I mean, well, okay. What's the difference between that and organized crime? Let's hear arguments about that. When you're doing that kind of thing, that is not just the homies was driving home from the liquor store and saw somebody. This is planned. This is organized. This is an orchestrated. I mean, supposed to be professional hit. It didn't go as planned, but they're trying. They're really trying to put an amazing effort to be an organized organization, organized criminal organization. I mean, they're fitting the appearance. They look like that. When they're trying to buy tickets a certain way, don't put anything in my name, and they're going out of state to unalive somebody, to ambush somebody. Anyway, so they spent 2 days asking people if rap makes them think of violence, and then they seated a jury that's going to be shown piss me off as evidence. And like I said, I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that that's fair at all. However, when you live the life and you hang out with the people that you hang out with, you cannot say that you are just writing fictional material. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. If you want to write songs like how these guys are writing, that's popular and selling, that's the thing. Keeping it keeping it real. This drill rap. That's what's selling. That's what's popping in the street, in the rack, Chirac. Yeah, all that. You can't live like that. When you're not in the booth, you got to be in church. When you're not at the video shoot with your pants sagging and everything, you got to have a suit on and selling watchtowers, selling bean pies when you're not in the booth. If you want people to think that that's just you just writing to keep the lights on, you can't actually live that life. No, nothing remotely. You can't remotely be like that outside of the recording studio or off the stage or off of the interviews or whatever. You're not at the radio stations. You are whatever type of business related endeavors that you may have to do, responsibilities as far as marketing and yada yada yada. Maybe you can't go there looking like Urkel, but when you're not on the clock, you better look just like Urkel if you want people to think that that's who you really are. Other than that, they're gonna be like, this must be who he really is. This is what he writes. He's so natural. It looks like realistic. So anyway, somebody in that room needed subtitles. That's what I said, to understand the lyrics of the evidence. And that might be deciding whether a man dies in prison or not. And that's not, that's not a joke. That's the case. If you don't speak, like, I don't even want to call it ebonics because I think we beyond that. If you don't speak that hood English, and it kind of is really regional at this point, like the LA ghetto doesn't sound like the Chicago ghetto. That don't sound like the down south Atlanta, Alabama, Florida ghetto. That don't sound like Baltimore ghetto. That don't sound like New York ghetto. I mean, these are all different, almost dialects at this point, where it's a lot of variation and different sounds for maybe the same words. So if you don't understand how you going to interpret, how you going to interpret a double entendre in a language that you don't even understand? This seems like a setup to misinterpret some lyrics and put somebody away and say, oh well, I thought that's what you meant. These lyrics are, while they're using really broken English, but this is really sophisticated still. So this is still a competitive industry, and these are sophisticated writers, whether they know how to write and speak in the King's English or not. So I don't want to disrespect what they are able to do linguistically by only looking at the fact that they may speak in broken English or their pronunciation isn't ideal. Anyway, if the lyrics are Exhibit A, then the jury's relationship to the lyrics is the whole trial. And it started with people saying out loud that the genre sounds violent to them. So if you can't understand the language, can you really judge what it means? Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, it may not be the equivalent of me trying to decode some song in Spanish, but these are high stakes, and I don't think this is the time to learn how to decode what somebody is saying on the from the streets of Southside Chicago, and you are from South Pasadena, for instance, and you have your English is not like their English. Your use of the language is not like their use of the language. So I think that's a tough piece of evidence for anybody. And that should be ruled. That should not be allowed, but it's already allowed, but it shouldn't be. That's just my take on it, because it's too complicated. I can speak some hood English, as evidenced by how hood my language is at times, how ghetto my speech is at times. But I wouldn't try to understand that as far as somebody's life is on the line and try to make sense of what they're saying. That's ridiculous. That seems like too sophisticated. It seems like if you are someone who speaks in the king's or the queen's English, maybe it seems like this is all really simplistic and you can anybody, this is like writing in Crayola. It may be in Crayola, but that doesn't mean it's not really dense and almost like you reading philosophy that's written in Crayola. Now, imagine how hard that is. You are reading Descartes written in Crayola. You are reading Immanuel Kant written in Crayola. I mean, this stuff is hard if it's in print. You're going to now read it in Crayola, and that makes it therefore easier? Okay. So, another legal issue happening. This is out of the blue. We didn't see this one coming. Anyway, Sunday morning, East Palestine, Ohio. Jed York, principal owner and CEO of the San Francisco 49ers, was arrested on prostitution charges and possession criminal tools. Monday, 8:30 a.m. today, the charges amended down to disorderly conduct. He pled no contest. Time served. He had a $1,150 fine. Over. Is that justice? Anybody want to react to that? Well, that's definitely the legal system we have. You know, if you have the money, your legal system is going to be different than the person who doesn't. Unfortunately, that's just the way that is. But it could be worse, I guess. I mean, it could be, in places where it's even more corrupt. You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know about it. At least we can know that these people are messed up too. If you're out doing dirt, that it'll still get exposed. It'll still come out. I mean, not that it matters so much. I mean, regular people get caught picking up prostitutes. When regular, I mean like non-billionaires, regular poor people get caught doing that, and I'm sure they deal with more. Well, he has that on his record for whatever that means. I don't think that really. Now somebody poor may have to report that, next time they try to get a job doing whatever, they may have to come clean with that. Like, hey, you know what? I was out, giving back to the community. All right. Anyway, that's my time today. I have fun. Appreciate you all who came out, tapped in with me. I really, really appreciate that. You just don't know. Anyway, we're doing this tomorrow, same time, same place. Like, share, subscribe. See you tomorrow at 5. Peace.